Hey everyone, it's Alexis. Welcome back. I hope you guys are all having a great day. This coming weekend is Father's Day, and I'm sure there's many important men in your life that you're wanting to celebrate, whether it's your uncle, your grandpa, your dad, maybe just your best friend's dad. I know some of my best friends, their dads feel like my second dads, and just those special father figures in your life. I love making cards for this special occasion because especially with my dad, he's not a big gift person, but I noticed he keeps all my cards, so I wanted to make him a card special for Father's Day, and so I went with a little bit of bling because he's not like that at all, so I thought it'd be funny actually that I made a shaker card today, and I'm going to give you a couple of different ideas on ways that you can modify this if you don't have all these supplies at home, or different ways that you could actually use the shaker domes. So I'm going to go through a few of the supplies that you're going to need in order to make a card like this. The first one is I use some of our star framelit dies. These are an essential for any maker. Any of our nesting dies are great because they just offer basic shapes, but also the way you can layer them up is really great. So I'm just using the smallest one today. And then I'm also going to be using our texture roll. So I'm using the metallic today, the silver metallic texture roll. They come in 12 by 48 long sheets, and they're really durable material. Like, it's so hard to rip these. You really can't rip them. And they're great when you actually start to crease them. They look more and more like leather. But what I'm using them for today is they're great for 3D embossing. Look how amazing that is. Thought I'd give you a little sneak peek of that. So I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. And then I'm also using our Chapter 2 3D embossing folder called Geometric Lattice. This is one of my favorite kind of geometric designs that we've come out with. There's a couple of other ones that we've come out earlier this year. There's Doily, and then there's also Adorn Tile. They're great designs, but I wanted to use this one today. And then because I'm going to be creating a shaker card, there's nothing better for shaker cards and lining things up than our sticky grid sheets. So I've already prepped one of my sticky grids right here with the die that I'm going to use to create the shape for my dimensional dome. And they're really easy, they're reusable. So I keep this little sheet on top because then I can just protect it in between use. And then if you don't want to keep it on your cutting pad like I have it, then you just take them off and you keep both protective sheets and you cover them back up. It's really nice and convenient, and they have a really nice low tack to them so your paper doesn't rip, which is great. And then one of the final things is I'm going to be using some of our Opulent cardstock in the ivory color. I'm going to actually be using the glitter and the mirror effect today, but there's also this really nice shimmer pearl. There's a brush pearl, which feels like a linen effect, and then there's the soft touch, which almost feels like leather, which you would not think it would, but it's really soft, ironically enough. And then I'm going to be using our 3.5-inch dimensional dome, and that actually comes with, but there is a set of circle framelits that match each of our dimensional domes. So we have a 3.5-inch, which I'm going to be using on the sticky grid, a 2.5-inch, a 2-inch, and a 1.5-inch. So these all work with our domes and give you that perfect cut that you need in order for everything to fit together. And then I'm going to be using our Bluebell sequins and beads. These are a part of our color story. They match perfectly with our cardstocks, our felts, anything in between. And I decided to use Bluebell cardstock for the base of my card, so that's why I'm using the Bluebell sequins and beads. I wanted to tie it all together. So now that we know what we need, I'm going to show you how to make. So the first thing I want to do is cut my aperture for my card front. I've already prepped my card base. I'm using a 5x7 card base, and then I've created a mat right here out of the Arctic Sky cardstock. And I'm going to then use my silver texture roll to create my kind of the focal point, we'll say, on the card front. But I know I need to cut out that card front first. And so I'm going to lay it down. I've already kind of laid this out earlier where I could see that I'm getting an even amount on either side of my card front, and I have it at the height that I want it for the card. And then you're just going to place it in the top left-hand corner right along the grid lines. And because this is a really thick surface, I'm really going to lay it down. Like I said, this is low tack, so it shouldn't rip my paper when I pull it up. And because it's already on a cutting pad, I only need one more. So I'm just gonna put this onto my machine platform. I've got my cutting pad below, my cutting pad on top, and then you just run it through one time. Okay, and your best friend when you're using these is like a little pair of tweezers or a die pick, something you can just get that initial corner up so you don't tear and rip it, and then you just slowly peel it away. And there I have the beginning of my card front. So I'm gonna put this off to the side. Now that I have it cut to the size I want it to be, and I've got my hole, now I'm gonna actually 3D emboss. So I'm gonna take away this part of the platform and go down to my 3D embossing platform. And I'm gonna take my folder, and I've got this, what we call the mountain side and the valley side. So the mountain side is where all the dimension comes up, and the valley side is where it impresses down into the valleys. So you always want the part that you want to raise, you want to face it away from the mountain side. Now with 3D embossing, you want to wet your surface. It just allows for the fibers in the paper to break up and to get that deeper impression. So I've lined it into my folder, and then I'm going to put it on my platform at an angle because you don't want it to get stuck going through the machine. I'm seeing that's at a little bit more of an angle than I want it to be, so I'm just going to adjust that real quick. Okay. And then you just need one cutting pad. 3D embossing folders are a lot thicker than our normal 2D embossing folders were, so you just need one cutting pad for these. And then with 3D embossing, we always say to run it through 3 times. It just allows for a really deep impression, but that's also why we ask you to wet the surface, because you don't want your paper to tear. And especially with these metallic folders, they're so much thicker than normal paper, and you really want to get that impression in there. So now I've got my card front. If you have like a little bit of an extra come through, that's fine. You can trim off the edges. So then another thing I'm going to cut real quick is with the aperture. When I laid it down, I decided I wanted a little bit of a bold color behind, so I actually decided to cut the circle framelit out of this white mirror cardstock. And I'm just going to pull off the die from the sticky grid, and I'm going to reuse that and die cut into this mirror cardstock to get a background. What's nice about the Opulent range is that you can use multiple different textures on the same project because they all have a different texture, so they add their own sense of dimension. So I've got what I like to do when I'm working with the dimensional domes, and I know I'm going to do this upside down the wrong way, so I want to make, like I almost just did, I want to make sure my card's going the right way. So I always lay this out just to kind of get an idea of where I want it to be, and then I would lay this in. So I'm going to add some express glue to the back of this. And then once I've got my texture roll exactly where I want it to be, I'll just lay this in so that I get that perfect little registration for the background. And then I'll peel this away to actually work on putting my dome together. So I pre-cut some glitter stars using the glitter Opulent cardstock and Ivory, and I'm just going to use some express glue and glue these down. I wanted to have a little bit of something that stayed in place even when all the sequins and beads would come down towards the bottom of the card. Another thing you could do instead of doing this is you could cut out a picture of you and the person you're making the card for, and actually cut the picture into a circle and then have the picture inside the dome. I thought that would be a really cute little idea. Could also put a little treat inside the dome if you wanted to, and they have to break it open. Ruins the card, but makes it a little fun and interactive. So once I've gotten those stars on, I'm then going to add in my sequins and beads. So I'm going to use 4 of the 5. There's hearts in here, and I didn't want to add the hearts. I liked these other elements a little bit better. So I just take like a pinch of each one and add it right into the middle. You can also put glitter in here if you wanted to. I really love these sequins and beads though. There's just such a fun variety in each of the packs. And you want to try to keep everything to the center so that when you go to put the dome on, it doesn't get stuck in the adhesive. Got these really pretty, I love this navy. Adds such a nice contrast to all the light blues. And I like there's such small circles and large circles together, so you can get a really good feel. I think my favorite is this one. I think this is such a beautiful color. And again, I'm just trying to get a few of those small ones in there too. Okay. So then I recommend when you're using the dimensional domes, pull out a stylus if you have access to one, because when you're putting down the actual dome, it's nice to kind of rub in that adhesive that is on the dome, because you can see there's an adhesive around the edge of the dome, and you just peel this away, and then I really like to rub that into place so that my dome will not break open. Now the trick with the domes, and this is really important, make sure your adhesive is to the outside of that circle. Otherwise you'll get a little bit of a dimensional pull off of paper, and then it will break open the dome. So I like to lay it down first with my fingers, and then I go around and I just rub it into place as best as I can. Go around a few times, really get that adhesive to stick to the cardstock below, make it bond really well, and then success. So when I glue on dimensional things like this, I find sometimes they like to pucker, so I would recommend using a liquid adhesive or a hot glue so that you really get a nice firm grab. The liquid is just nice because it'll go into the creases, but especially with the express glue, it dries really fast, which is great for these. And I always make sure to really go around where the circle is so that it's nice and firm in place around the actual dome itself. So just gently lay this in. The nice thing with liquid glue is you can kind of adjust as needed without really worrying about ripping anything. And then I'm just going to kind of run my fingers around, get that glue to hold in place. So I've also cut some additional things to add to the card front. I did a little word using our chunky alphabet from the Bigz XL die chunky alphabet in chapter 1. And I've already put some foam tape onto the back of this because I wanted it to have a little bit of dimension. And then I'm just going to center that right below the opening. And then, you know, we put those stars on the back of the card. I also cut out some other ones and also put some foam adhesive on those. Just thought I'd bring what was inside the card to the outside of the card. And there you go. A nice, fun, interactive Father's Day card. You can change out the color palettes to whatever your dad's favorite colors might be or his favorite sports teams might be. You could hide a gift inside, like I said, maybe a gift card, something, you know, dads are so hard to shop for sometimes. But I hope you all have a great time celebrating with the special men in your life, and we thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you